Hey guys, how's it going? It's Baggins here, and welcome to my first video of a new how-to series for New World. Now in today's video, we're going to cover the topic of healing, as it's something that I have extensive experience with, having healed for hundreds and hundreds of hours during the New World open beta, closed beta, and various alphas. But if you guys are interested in a different aspect of New World, how to tank, how to do expeditions, how to do corrupted breaches, how to buy a territory, so on and so forth, I'll put a link to the full playlist in the description down below. We're going to be adding videos over time to that playlist, so if you want to stay up to date as they come out, make sure you click the subscribe button and the like button if you enjoyed this video in particular. But getting back to the topic at hand, how do we heal in New World? Well, we're going to be making the assumption that you guys have a basic understanding of New World in that there are no classes in the game. You don't choose a healer class at the start of the game. The way that you would be a healer in New World is by primarily using the life staff and putting the majority of your points into focus. Now, with this being said, at level 1, so you just pick up a life staff out of a chest, how do I heal with it? You can't. It's not until you get around 2 to 3 weapon mastery levels with the life staff before you can actually heal somebody. So how do I get weapon mastery, Baggins? Because this is going to be the night and day for the life staff. I've heard a lot of people complain that they think the life staff is underpowered. In my experience, it's one of the most powerful weapons in the game, if not the most powerful weapon in the game, but it does scale incredibly well with weapon mastery. So early on, you're gonna have a terrible time with the life staff. You're gonna find it very hard to kill things. You're gonna find it impossible to heal people. But if you can stick through it, you're going to find that you have a really powerful weapon in your hands, which you can use to massively change the flow of fights. So your next question would probably be, well, how do I get weapon mastery with the life staff then? What are the best ways to get weapon mastery? And the honest answer is just to kill stuff. Now, killing stuff just alone with the life staff is going to take you a lot of time early on, so I propose that you go for my solo leveling build. If you are playing solo, I'll put a link to it up in the top right. It involves life staff, hatchet, and light armor. But if you're playing in a group, you can run life staff, ice gauntlet, and maybe medium to heavy armor, although I would still keep the light armor for like your first 20 to 25 character levels in the game. Now, it is important to note, if you want to get mastery levels for your life staff, you will need to still attack the enemies with the life staff. Just healing your team alone is not enough, so make sure that you land at least 1 to 2 light attacks on every enemy before it dies, alongside weaving in the heals and using your ice gauntlet utility to keep yourself alive and allow your teammates to do extra damage. So we know how to get weapon mastery level, but now let's talk about how to spend the points. So we're going to go over to a website and I'll show you how I would build my life staff. So this is newworlddatabase.com. I'll put a link to the website in the description down below. It's not sponsored, I just think it is a very nice looking website. This is my fully finished life staff skill tree if you just want to see like, okay, this is what I'm aiming for. But something that I think would be helpful for you guys to know is how to build it starting from scratch. So if we just redo all of our points here, where do I go with my very first level? In my opinion, I think it's best first to pick up Absolved, as this is just one of the best passives in the game for the life staff. Makes that your life staff's light and heavy attacks no longer cost mana, which is just tremendously important. Then we're immediately going to try and pick up as many heals as we can from here. So we want Sacred Ground because it is just like the best heal in the game when you max it out. Next, we're going over to the Protector tree to pick up Bend Light. This says after you dodge, your heals are 20% more effective for 5 seconds. The general rule of thumb is if the passive says increase your heal or make your heal more effective, you want to take it. So we're looking at Protector's Strength, we're looking at Blessed, we're looking at Divine Blessing, we're looking at Intensify. All of these things increase your outgoing healing, and the bigger your heals, you know, the more useful you're going to be. So that being said, going back to spending the points at level 3, I would pick up Beacon, and then at level 4, I would pick up Light's Embrace. And this way, you have a fully maxed out hotbar, and you can actually start healing. Now, you're not going to be healing that much, because again, the more focus you get, the bigger your heals will be, and you still need to pick up some of these passives so you can actually start doing some decent-sized heals. So going back over to the left side for level 5, we're maxing out Sacred Ground. At level 6, we pick up Blessed. Now, Blessed, again, really, really important. While allies are standing in Sacred Ground, they're healed for 50% more from all healing. So 50% on top of the 20% from here, on top of the 30% from Intensify, which is what we're taking at level 7, or is this level 8 now? You get the idea. From here, I would then recommend going back over to the Protector tree and getting the next 2 points into Beacon, so increase the size of effect of the beacon and also increase the duration that it lasts. Then we're going back over to the left side and we want to get Divine Blessing, because this again increases your outgoing healing. If your target's below 50%, you basically fully top them up with something like Light's Embrace. So we're taking Revitalize. Every time we land a light attack, it reduces your cooldown, so keep spamming light attacks. In conjunction with that, Something else that is beneficial when you spam light attacks, if they go through your ally and hit an enemy, or they just go through your ally, they'll heal them for 20% of the weapon damage. Probably by the time you are like level 12 with the life staff, you hopefully have a fairly decent life staff that has a pretty good weapon damage rating on it, so this is actually going to be a significant number. This is why we don't pick it up too early on, because early on, the weapon damage from the life staff is going to be so bad that 20% of it is basically like no healing at all. But later on, as your life staff gets like more damage, this becomes more powerful. Then we're going to pick up some cooldown reduction from Desperate Speed. We're going to pick up some incoming healing from Sacred Protection, and we need to spend one more point to get Divine Blessing. So out of these two, I would prefer to go for Mending Touch. I think this has just got too long of a cooldown. 120 seconds is just too long in New World time. So Mending Touch to remove debuffs from your tank, or in PvP to remove it from your allies, very useful. And then we have Divine Blessing. And at this point, we're pretty much good. We still have a few points left to spend, but you can kind of choose to spend them where you want. For me personally, I would get more outgoing healing. It's very nice. I would get the extra mana on Light's Embrace for topping up your tank so they can keep blocking. They can use their stamina more aggressively, and you can keep restoring stamina to them. And then the last point, I think Protector's Touch is a nice little solo benefit as well. Makes you a little bit tankier. It gives you damage reduction every time you land a light or heavy attack. So that is our fully fleshed out life staff tree. If you're more interested in playing solo, you could substitute either Light's Embrace or Beacon for Aura Protection. Aura Protection is another damaging ability. If you do hate the idea of doing single target heals, because if you're doing single target heals, it means you have to probably turn the targeted healing setting on. I'll talk about my healing settings later on in the video, but if you don't want to play with single target heals because you find them really difficult to land, you could go for an all AoE healing build and take Aura Protection instead. Maybe go for the point there instead, and you know, it's a fairly similar tree, so 2 points into Light's Embrace or 2 points into Aura Protection. You choose your preference. I do think Light's Embrace is a really powerful heal right now though. In terms of Ice Gauntlet for the group content, this is what my fully finished build would look like. It is largely up to you. I would pretty much recommend that you take Ice Storm and at least put 3 points into it. When enemies are standing in Ice Storm, if they're below 50% health, they take 10% more damage from you and all your teammates, so you can up your teammates' damage by putting them in the Ice Storm, which is very valuable. But one of the main reasons we're taking the Ice Gauntlet in the team scenario is because we want Entombed or Ice Tomb. When you are in Ice Tomb, it's very hard for enemies to kill you, so if the tank loses aggro and you have all of the mobs swarming you, you can press Ice Block. You're nice and safe. You can allow the tank to try and taunt everybody off you again. Also in a PvP scenario, this can save you many times over as well. And another very important aspect of Ice Tomb is that it gives you a massively increased mana regen rate. So we'll talk about the healing rotation later on, and I'll show you how powerful it is. But when you're in Ice Tomb, your mana regenerates very fast, which is super useful as a healer because you are going to be burning through your mana like there's no tomorrow. As I mentioned earlier on in the video, if you want to see the solo Hatchet life staff build, again, I'll put a link to that in the top right. But in the interest of keeping the duration of this video short out, we're not going to show the life staff Hatchet build just now. So that's how I would recommend that you build your life staff, but how do you actually use it in combat? What does like effective healing look like, or what does your rotation look like? Now, every fight is different in New World, and especially in PvP, you're not always going to get this sort of ideal scenario where you can pull off this exact combo. But let's say we're in a dungeon, the tank is pulling. First, I would start by building my Intensify stacks by landing 3 heavy attacks. Each heavy attack gives us 10% more healing, up to 30%, and this lasts for 10 seconds. So it's just important, every 10 seconds we land a heavy attack to make sure we stay at 3 stacks of Intensify. From here, I would then do a dodge to get the Band Light effect, so we have another 20% outgoing healing. At this point, we have 50% outgoing healing in total. Then we throw the Sacred Ground onto the tank or in the middle of the group. Important note here, by the way, if you are playing with targeted healing, you can press the middle mouse button. This will unlock the Sacred Ground, and then you can freely place it wherever you want. Also, if you're in a bit of a pinch and you just need to cast a heal on yourself because you're in a lot of trouble, hold in Control before you cast the ability, and you will cast it on yourself. This works for Divine Embrace, Light's Embrace, and Sacred Ground. So Control for yourself, middle mouse button to unlock it and place it freely. So we've done the 3 stacks of Intensify with heavy attacks, we've done the dodge, we've got the Sacred Ground down for another 50% healing. So that's 30%, 20%, and then another 50% on top. Then we throw out the Beacon for a big AoE heal. Hopefully your team's somewhat roughly grouped up. If you do need to throw out another single target heal with the Light's Embrace to top somebody up, go for that. Assuming everybody's full health, you switch over to the Ice Gauntlet, you drop the Ice Storm on the group. Hopefully by now they're below 50% health. With this, you'll make sure that the enemy is taking 10% more damage from a teammate, and then you can sort of take a break, go into the Ice Tomb, and regenerate your mana, because you've probably spent more than half your mana doing this rotation, and then it's rinse and repeat. We make sure we get the heavy auto attacks, we do a dodge before we cast any of our ground targeted heals, or any heals in general, and it's basically rinse and repeat from here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, your heal settings can make a pretty big difference to sort of how you heal in the game, so here are my settings on the screen here. I personally wouldn't really recommend changing too much, but I think if you do want to be a dedicated healer, play with each individual setting and find what works for you. I think one of the most important things is whether you play with group mode on or off. If you play with group mode on, you'll only be able to heal members in your group. So if you're playing in a war and you want to heal some like random straggler who walks past you, you won't be able to do that with group mode unless you cast something like Sacred Ground and then, you know, middle mouse button, unlock it and place it under that person. Generally, I like to play with group mode because I feel like as a healer, I'm responsible for my group, and if there's another group, they should have their own dedicated healer who's looking after them. It's also a bit of a nightmare to try and cast Light's Embrace on somebody in your party when there's like 15 other people in front of you, so personally, I play with group mode generally on, but again, it comes down to personal preference, what settings you guys like to play with here. Last couple of things to talk about: what gems should you be running in your gear? When it comes to weapons, you pretty much always want to put a diamond in your life staff. The diamond gives you increased outgoing healing if you're at full health, but the good news is, as the healer in your group, you are responsible, you are directly in control of who can be at full health, so just make sure you're at full health, top yourself up, and then you'll have extra outgoing healing, which again, is just what we want. Outgoing healing, always good. In your secondary weapon, you pretty much always want to be using the Amber Gem, as this is going to add a lot of extra damage to your weapon. The Amber Gem converts part of the weapon's damage to scale off of focus, and since you're putting pretty much all of your points into focus, it's just like a no-brainer. Put the Amber Gem in the secondary weapon. Now, while we're on the topic of stats, we may as well get into where should you be putting your points, and as you may have guessed from what we've been talking about so far, it's pretty much all into focus. I would recommend, this is without any extra gear, so if we have perfect gear, we can get quite a few extra points, but just from the points that you get from leveling alone, we want to get to at least 150 focus. Once we get to 150 focus, we have 20% extra outgoing healing, and again, the more outgoing healing, the better, because that means you can drop that light armor in favor of medium or heavy armor, so you can actually take a few hits in a fight without immediately going down, because you got to remember, if you're dead, if you're knocked down, you can't do any healing whatsoever. So I would recommend transitioning to medium or heavy armor as soon as you feel like your healing numbers are good enough. And something that will help you feel like your healing numbers are good enough is having 150 points into focus, because again, another 20% extra outgoing healing on top of Bend Light, Intensify, Blessed, Divine, whatever it's called, the Ultimate. You know, there's just so many extra outgoing healing things that you can get that you don't really need the other 20% from light armor. You could go to 10% from medium or even 0% with heavy armor. For any remaining points that you do have left over, if you feel like your heals are good enough and you don't need any more points in focus, and again, the more points in focus, the better, but I would recommend trying to get to at least 50 points in Constitution. You can save a heal, instead just use a healing potion. You can't use healing potions on teammates, but you can use them on yourself, and you can have them heal you for 20% more with 50 Constitution. Also, this just gives you a little bit of extra hit points to play around with, so you don't get one-shot by bosses or, you know, a player with a pretty nasty musket or fire staff, something like that. Some people ask me if it's worth putting any points into intelligence so they can do more damage with the light and heavy magic attacks, but that's not really your role as a healer. You're not there to do damage. If you do want to do damage, pull out your secondary weapon, and, you know, with the focus gem, it should still be hitting pretty hard. So yeah, just focus, a little bit of Constitution. That's how the points are looking, in my opinion, for the ideal healer setup. And I think that pretty much does it for healing in New World, guys. I may have not gone into exacts on every single detail of healing, but that would make this video like much longer in length, and I wanted to keep it pretty concise. If you guys do have any additional questions, feel free to ask them in the comments down below. I generally respond to comments within 24 hours, but if you need the answer straight away, I will be live during the release for many hours a day, so I'll put a link to the stream in the description down below. I do try to answer as many questions from chat as I can, so feel free to drop in by there. Once again, guys, if you did find this video useful, make sure you go ahead and click the like button. Subscribe if you want to see future how-tos. If there's anything in particular you guys are curious about and you want to see next, like how to tank or other aspects of New World, let me know in the comments down below. That will help me decide what video I should do next. But as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all in the next one.